Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble, Volume 213. And this episode is brought to you by the letter E, which is for extinction.
Oh my god. Didn't expect the Sesame Street drop, but all right, here we are.
But E is for extinction. In this case, tolerance is extinction. So, yes, we are in part 1 of the 3-part season finale of X-Men 97, and I am very excited to talk about this, but how are you doing this week, Brent?
I am tired. I am tired. I was telling you before we got on that I worked about 9 hours at work today, had a couple hours worth of phone calls when I got home, and I was actually doing a little bit more work before we got on here. So I am tired. And there's a non-zero chance I'll do some more after we record tonight, but I may just pack it in and say whatever, it'll be there tomorrow.
You know, whatever it takes, right? To some extent.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brent and I work in different parts of the educational community, and yeah, May is tough. I've got about 2 more weeks until we start exams, so it's just like we're all trying to keep everyone happy, everyone trying to finish up those last units, get to review, and make it to the June 5th. That's the goal. So. We're almost there.
Yeah, for us, the last day is May 24th, but as a 12-month employee, and David, who's been on the show a few times, is right there, quite literally right there next to me. More often than not at work, for us, we just go. We keep going.
Yeah.
Like 12-month employees. And my daughter asked me the other day why I was home late, and I'm like, 'tis the season. you know, that's all I got for you. But we have a great X-Men episode to talk about, so we should get to happier things.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, 12 months here doesn't stop at that point; just gets a little like slower. So, looking for those times. But all right, yes, we got X-Men 97 episode 8 to talk about. So let's get those lovely network plugs out of the way. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 7 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see this full schedule, check out the show notes below. And subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. We got our $1 tiers, our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows, including our prior show, We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga Rewatch, 24 episodes covering the chronological order of the Infinity Saga. And we are in the throes of our second episode of our newest show, entitled Tales from the House of X. We just covered Deadpool 2, and on Monday, Brent, what did we drop?
What did we drop? Deadpool 2?
Yes, Deadpool 2. You know what?
Sorry, you said we just covered Deadpool 2. What did we drop? Deadpool 2.
Oh, never mind. Well, I meant to say,
But coming up next is the Wolverine, right?
The Wolverine. Yes, and I already had a fan of the show, Josh, reach out and saying it looks like he's prepping for it at that point, and he was asking me what is any arcs that it is adapted from, and I said, this is easy. This is easy. The 4-issue miniseries by Claremont and Frank Miller.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's not even that long of an arc,
No.
really. You know what I like to hear? The listeners playing along, doing some homework, just playing the game. I love it.
Yep. So we will be recording that in a couple of weeks, and as always, it'll drop at the end of the month. So the Wolverine is up next. But if you can't join us on Patreon, other shows that we've got on the Patreon, DC Alliance is doing DC Films Through the Years. Joe's doing his twice a month Disney Dives and looking at every single animated movie. He just dropped his most recent one, The Reluctant Dragon, which I have never seen, so I was quite interested to hear about that. But a lot of back content out there, so if you want to be a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network to become a part of it. We want to thank our patrons. We cannot do this without your support. And if you can't join us on Patreon, take about 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover and collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world, earn rewards to get money off books. I mean, what an appropriate title to start off this, the first time in print X-Men Decimation, because I know in X-Men 97 they're feeling a little decimated. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for sure they are. After what just happened at Genosha a few weeks ago, yeah, decimation. They could have called that decimation.
They could have. And then we've got X-Men The Road to Onslaught Omnibus. Many people are thinking we might be heading towards that. You never know the way things are going.
As long as we don't necessarily get to Heroes Reborn the same way,
Ooh,
or
yeah.
I mean, like, and even Heroes Reborn as a concept, I'm okay. It's just. I'm cool with Onslaught. I'd rather not go to Heroes Reborn, but they've earned a chance to tell the story they want to tell.
It'd be one of those times where the show did it better than the huge comic.
Way to set the bar there, I guess.
Then we got the Death of Wolverine, first time in omnibus format. A lot of Marvel Masterworks, a lot of great stuff. So use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. You can use it an unlimited amount of times, and it lets them know you are a listener. And we want to thank them for being an official sponsor. All right, so episode 8. Part 1, Tolerance is Extinction, the march to the season finale. Brent, what are you feeling? High-level thoughts, non-spoiler thoughts.
I was borderline giddy after watching this episode. There was so much in this that I loved, some of which was just like, holy cow, that was an amazing scene, some of which I just found funny, and I was borderline laughing at it, but it has to do with things that I personally really enjoy. We'll get there. And there was also some heartfelt moments, and I loved this episode so much. Like, is it right that I had so much fun with an episode that definitely had some horror elements to it? I don't know what that says about me, but I tell you, like, this episode, my only complaint was I couldn't squeeze in 2 viewings yesterday, but I did find time to get a second viewing in today at least, so there is that. But it was so good. Again, I had fun with this episode. I don't know that I was supposed to, but I did.
Yeah. This is, and as you see, forgot to mention, as you see in here, Mr. Hines is not joining us. He is needing a lot of sleep, and being a new dad, work kicking his butt at that point. We will allow it. As Spider-Man said, everyone gets one. In this guy's case, he's gotten a few, but we'll make sure he gets back on soon. So, but yeah, it's always interesting to see, how the season has pretty much hit on all cylinders. We could say that Motindo and Life Death Part 1 may be kind of like that pause before that we needed to have, and then Life Death Part 2. But like as a whole, the season, the return of X-Men the Animated Series has been just great. And the way they left us with episode 7, it's just like there is no way these next 3 parts are not anything but like boom, 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 boom. I mean, there are definitely 3 major kind of arcs going on in this whole episode that they find a way to weave together very well. The character development, the kind of little teams that are going on, it's. And the action sequences, the 2 major action set pieces at the mansion, and then later on in the the desert, were pretty impressive.
Oh my gosh, yes, I want to talk about them both for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just tiptoeing around it at that point. Yeah, this was great. Look forward to talk about it, getting ready to break it down. So, Brent, let us take our first ad break before we jump over the spoiler wall. So, if you have not seen episode 8. Tolerance is Extinction Part 1. Stop, watch it, and or else you're just going to be spoiled rotten with it. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. So, the title is based on three story arcs, three very big story arcs from the X-Men events. We have the Extinction Agenda. We have Operation, we talked about this last week, Operation Zero Tolerance. And then E is for Extinction, which introduced the character of Cassandra Nova in the Grant Morrison run. But I think all signs are pointing to I would not expect Cassandra Nova to show her face at all.
No, and I feel like I read somewhere, saw somewhere where it wasn't Bo DeMeo, but someone else involved with the show basically said without saying, if that's who you're waiting for, you need to look other directions. Like that's not who's at play. That doesn't mean there won't be someone else. Like there's still 2 episodes left. There could be, we've had Sinister, we've had Bastion. There could be somewhere else, but it's not going to be Cassandra Nova. At least not this season. Who knows about the future?
Yeah. So as we always start off the intro episode, I was trying to listen closely. This isn't Scott. I think this is Bastion.
See, I thought it was Scott.
Okay, I want to lean towards Scott, but it just sounded a little bit different. So, we're gonna go with Scott at that point. It was like 50-50 on who it was. So we do get the return of Professor X. That some people could consider it a spoiler in the sense of like he was, possibly going to be in this episode. But they also didn't put Magneto in the lineup. So we are thinking he has gone
right?
heel. Well, my thinking of that is the lineup is for our heroes, not for the villains. So I'm thinking that is basically saying that Magneto is turning heel again. So, when who can blame him?
I could see that. It just I'm kind of among those people that's like I wish they hadn't put Professor X. Well, wish is almost too strong. It didn't bother me, but I was in the back of my mind thinking, when is he going to show up?
Yeah.
And of course he shows up at the very end. But
yeah, you can make the argument saying, well, they did just say he was, even though we all knew he was alive. Like we already had Life Death Part 2 that showed him he was up and about, getting ready to come back. But the fact that you include him in the title sequences, I get the frustrations. It's like, well, when's he coming up in this episode? Because why are you putting him in if he's not?
Yeah, and they, I mean, by now they've certainly trained us that they are changing the episode. It's not like the original series where it was just the same front to back. Like they're changing it pretty much weekly. So what
outside
is
the last 2 weeks?
the differences?
Yeah.
So
we do get the return of also Magneto on Asteroid M is featured prominently, so we know part of the homework that Bo DeMeo gave us last week was involved the Asteroid M episodes, Sanctuary Parts 1 and 2, and I did do my homework this week. I did do that.
You watched those episodes?
I watched that. I watched Descent. I knew Descent pretty well because I had just done my rewatch of it, so that's when I didn't rewatch. But I did rewatch Sanctuary Part 1 and 2, One Man's Worth Parts 1 and 2, and then what was that? The Final Destiny, I think, whatever it was.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and double check his tweet, but I didn't rewatch any of them because I just did a full rewatch right before the season started. I'm like, I did my rewatch, but I watched all of it, even the nonsense.
And I will say this, like the things that were getting ready that were talked about the last episode heading into this episode, I was purposely looking out for those hints of things at that point. So,
right.
All right, so we do see Cable practicing shooting bottles out in front of the mansion while Scott looking on, telling Jean that Cable is not interested in any father-son time. He says that he envies Professor X when he could connect with all his students like a good father. So he definitely doesn't consider himself a good father. And I'm like, dude, I'll say hashtag Cyclops is still wrong, but I'll be like, dude, you really didn't raise your kid, so it's kind of like he's not going to really connect with you. You're really not going to connect with him outside of it. So it shouldn't really surprise you, but I do understand what he's trying to get at is that the professor didn't know any of these kids until, but found a way to do it. So obviously he's kind of saying, why can't I connect with even my own son?
I mean, Cyclops probably shouldn't consider himself father of the year, but he's not exactly a deadbeat dad. I mean, okay, sure, he wasn't around from the time his child was a baby till the time his child was a grown-up, but there were extenuating circumstances, and Cable was shunted off to the future to...
Now, in the comics, he is a deadbeat dad.
Cure. Well, that's different. For a miracle cure, but... I don't know. I feel like Cyclops is being hard on himself, which is a sign that he's a good dad, or at least he aspires to be a good dad.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And so when Scott actually inquires, when he's talking with Cable about Bishop, Cable says that they got separated in the time stream, hinting at his return. I think they're hinting at his return before the end of the season.
Could be. What I want to know is specifically what happened with Cable. Did he go farther into the future? And at some point, it's
He
like,
he did
did
say he was propelled 1,000 years into the future away from Cable.
and I'm curious where Cable is along his personal timeline in relation to the events of when Cable and Bishop actually met in the original run of the series.
Well, there's a theory going around. I'm not going to delve too much into it. I wish I could remember who put it out there, but there is this theory going around that Cable and Bishop are responsible for Nimrod and Bastion.
Interesting. That would be
So,
not the way I would have expected it to go, but that would
yeah,
certainly be an intriguing idea.
like whatever they did in their future allowed this to happen.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
all right, so then Cable tells them the history that he does know about Bastion and that he is the quote unquote next step in Sentinel human evolution. He explains that the fallout of Genosha allowed him to get the government funding, which explains why he's been rubbing shoulders with Val Cooper. He's that this ended up starting a war that lasted 300 years, with Morph making a off-color comment saying that, "Oh, good, another dystopian future where Logan is the last to die."
That's what he does.
Yep, but Cable actually counters that pretty quickly. He says actually, Bastion's tech upgraded humanity and led into a utopia. The mutants that remain are used as slaves to build the utopia, and so we do see some cameos from Rachel Summers, aka Phoenix, rebuilding the Golden Gate Bridge. We see Polaris in space addressing the looks like the Earth's magnetic
Was
fields.
that Rachel?
That was Rachel.
I guess I just kind of assumed it was Jean. I'm gonna have to go back and revisit that.
Yep, because if you pause right there, you kind of compare it to Days of Future Present,
Mm-hmm.
kind of when she was introduced as one of the
Mm-hmm.
Hounds.
Yeah.
She's very much in the guise of that because
Okay.
you got the
Okay.
lines there.
I'm gonna look that back up.
Yep. And Bastion is basically what Bastion's trying to do. Bastion is trying to alter the past in order to create this future. Like he's purposely aligning everything at that point. Now in the comics, Nimrod was virtually indestructible. So what happened in the comics is that the X-Men had to find another way to beat him. They sent him through what was known as the Siege Perilous. What it is it grants those who enter it a second chance of life and what is a pan-dimensional portal in which all those who enter are judged. Colossus actually went through it and was granted a happy life as an artist with a model girlfriend. The universe's higher powers, when they shoved Nimrod through this, cast him back out, returning to Earth as a living humid sentinel hybrid. He was taken in by Rose Gilberty, who by the end who gave him the name of Sebastian, which was then shortened to Bastion. And throughout his life, he was fascinated with the mutant problem. Gee, I wonder why. He teamed up with the anti-mutant groups like the Friends of Humanity, who we know have been seen throughout the series. So he has been. This is the. There's only. Episode 3 was one I could not find or I could not see a connection to Bastion or Bastion being present in. So this is where we've seen
Well, he
Bastion
wasn't in
already.
it.
He wasn't in it, but also there's a very small connection even in Life Death Part 2. So in episode 1 we see him in a flash when Madeline is going through kind of like seeing the possible future at that point or seeing some hints of the past, seeing a child holding the crayon, drawing a castle. We later see that as in Bastion's room. He was the buyer of the Friends of Humanity. He's the buyer that the Friends of Humanity are referring to, who he's selling the mutants to, and he's also the one giving him the tech. In episode 2, the opening of episode 2, he is seated. His back is turned, but he is seated at the UN Council that's watching Magneto go good at that point.
Mm-hmm.
In episode 4, he was in the picture next to Forge. I'd pointed that out. In episode 5, he was at the Genosha Gala. Blink and you miss it, but he's on the stairs somewhere as Magneto's kind of floating above. In episode 6, this is a soft kind of cameo, the globe turning into this purple flames, which is kind of his signal.
Yeah.
So he has been ever present throughout this. He's been the man operating behind the scenes. Even technically, they're trying to basically say that he was the one ordering Gyrick to take out Professor X.
Right, right, right. Okay, okay, yeah. By the way, I did find that scene, and yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely Rachel.
There we go. So we see Cable's AI computer projection show the branching timeline. What'd you think about that? That's they're bringing in some of our the sacred timeline, the branching timelines that we've got introduced in Loki.
I mean, I liked it again. We touched on this last week a little bit, and I know people are trying to find ways to just to reiterate what I said then to put this as part of the MCU, and it's like no, it's MCM, Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. Like this is part of it at this point. They keep giving us these little hints and clues, like that's what it's a part of, and I like the consistency that this. Of course, it's a little different overall, but visually, this is roughly what the timeline looks like in comparison for Marvel projects, and even in Across the Spider Verse, there's a couple shots that look like it or look similar to it. So I like the consistency if that's what the Marvel timeline slash Marvel universes multiverses look like.
Yeah, we see little symbols of the formation of the X-Men with symbols for Professor X and Magneto. Next one, we see the symbol for Marvel Girl. Cable talks about fixed points in time that no matter what, the event is going to happen, which is why he can't change what happened at Genosha, despite when he's asked, like, how many times he tried to say it, he basically says, too many times just to come up and not having it. This kind of relates
to... Who brought that up, though? Beast is the one who first mentioned the fixed points.
Well,
remember who he said mentioned like who Beast learned about him from?
Oh, Carmotage.
Yes, the Mystics of Carmotage. Another. I mean, I know Doctor Strange has like been in those cameo shots or whatever, but another reference expanding the world.
Well, we also get introduced to this idea in episode 4 of What If with what if Doctor Strange lost his heart? That's where we get started of like the death of Christine is a point that always has to happen. So that kind of gives me the idea that it gives me hope that the Genosha is not going to be retconned, and that Gambit's death is still going to mean something.
I'm starting to follow that. Yeah, the fixed points in time or canon events, like what we call it in Spider-Verse. Like it's all kind of the similar concept.
Instead of a Nexus being a Nexus event.
Nexus events, yeah. I'm still not 100%. I'm still not 100% convinced that Gambit is going to be dead. But part of me does wonder is like, are they going to figure like is Cable going to pop in with enough time travel tech just to grab Gambit and pull out? Where the reason he's been failing is he was trying to stop the whole thing, and maybe the loophole for just Gambit will be the fixed point in time is the Genoshan massacre, not the death of Gambit, like him individually. And so I'm still not completely convinced, and I feel real weird for saying this. At this point, I kind of wish or kind of hope that he is left dead, but I'm fully open to how they're going to tell the story, and then we'll make that determination.
Yep, like you said, we'll wait and see. Then we see newscast coming in with breaking news with the footage from the Shi'ar Empire showing Professor X is alive, and now one of the emperors saying he looks forward to ruling with the Shi'ar at that point. And this is what I was thinking when he was showing that at the end of the last episode, that he's going to put it out there. He's going to try to continue, as he does later on, he's going to overload the humans with so much information that it's going to cause chaos. Like, he's not giving them a chance to like process anything. We get the massacre at Genosha. We get this now. We're now pretty soon going to get these nanotech sentinels, human hybrids at that point. Like, we're going to throw so much out of it. Like, they're just going to like snap and just go and just turn on the mutants completely because of the chaos that they're going to say like they're causing.
I want to know where they got the footage. Where did they get the footage of things like this? Like, did somebody from the Shi'ar send the footage out? Like, where?
I could be making this up. I could have sworn he said like he has a satellite or something that he's repurposed.
I mean, heck of a satellite, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe.
I could be also making that up and just kind of headcanoning it. Sometimes that does happen.
Sure.
But yeah, he's stoking more fear. He wants them to kind of turn at that point, and so that they'll be more able to do what he wants them to do. And they do break the news that Gyrick is dead, and the spin is saying they're making the hint of the spin that this could have been caused by, a mutant could have murdered him, which, Bastion, mutant, human hybrid, cyber, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, Bastion, a little bit of everything. What else is there? Like, talk about he
Yeah.
is a melting pot. Like, does he so much going into him?
Yeah, so then we head to New York City where we see Jubilee and Roberto and his mom having a fancy breakfast. And we do see in the background one of the newscasts, we see another cameo, William Stryker, stating that a mutant war is coming and he will commit genocide um, in order to make it happen.
Yeah, it's. I'll be honest. At this point, I have asked the question: is the point of Sunspot basically to give Jubilee something to do? Like, I don't feel like they've done a lot with the character yet.
They've done absolutely nothing really with Sunspot outside of just giving us a new character to say that, oh, I'm hiding myself, and just the character that Jubilee was kind of like last year,
Except even she wasn't really hiding herself
No,
much
she wasn't.
past the first episode. And I mean, I wonder if this is like he'll have a bigger role to play in season 2, but they wanted to get the establishment stuff out of it so they could hit the ground running in season 2. But they just I hate to use the word filler, but they haven't added. He just hasn't added much to the show yet.
No, and it's probably my least favorite part of this episode. And whenever they're both on screen, it's just like, I'm sorry,
There was such an awkward phrase from Jubilee too, like "You're rich and I have good fashion sense. Let's go get some."
Yeah,
retail
I know.
therapy."
It's just
don't get me wrong. His mom was not being a good person, but it was just awkwardly phrased. He's just like, "Okay, whatever. Let's go for it."
And I'm just like, man, way to be a gold digger there, Jubilee. At that point, I get what she was trying to do and just trying to say, fine, you're not going to be. We'll just go to the mall and spend money at that point. But the delivery of it is just like, that doesn't make you look good.
I don't think so either. No.
So that I think I agree with you on that one. But I that was as soon as I started coming in, I was like, all right, I'm not going to be, whenever they're on screen, I'm going to be like, oh, can we move on to the things that actually are interesting? So then we see Jean back at the mansion trying to read Rogue's mind, who has been basically taken out since the attack that Trask Bastion, the Trask hybrid Sentinel had done to them. And Nightcrawler's there, as her half brother, saying that Jean can be a mother even if she wasn't Madeline. And he talks about his own mother, Mystique. But in the comics, they've kind of retconned that because Mystique is technically now, according to now, the canon, is Nightcrawler's and Rogue's dad.
Yes. Nightcrawler's dad, but I guess it could still be Rogue's mom. But that's the advantage of a shape-shifting character. But regardless, I love this scene. The way, like, the tenderness that Nightcrawler talked with Jean about the feelings that she has and the confusion she's experiencing over having Madeline's memories, but knowing definitively they didn't happen to her, like feeling Nathan kicking her in the stomach or whatever when her memories say she was pregnant, even though she knows Madeline was pregnant. And the way that Nightcrawler tells the story of like, our mom was not a good person and we could have, been angry, but we chose, even though we're not blood, we chose to be something else. We chose to be family. Of course, #family.
No, we get you can really use that in a little bit
I will.
too.
Don't you worry.
So protests are happening in front of the mansion due to the news report. We go back to Mr. Sinister and Bastion's hideout, and who walks out? Val, dressed in kind of a Bastion-like kind of uniform, and which is interesting. So, we do see that kind of my factor of fiction was kind of proven in the sense of that she was working with Bastion. She did give him access to the Sentinel tech, but she, has that she wanted the idea to have a contingency in case mutants went, but did not, according to her, did not want the massacre of Genosha. That was not something that she signed up for.
Yeah, I just don't understand her motivations, and I'm still saw a little bit of the debate and heard a little bit of the debate of, is she really Mystique? And I'm like,
y'all keep on trying to make that happen. I still don't see it.
At this point, I don't think it is. Like, up until last week, I was like, she could be. But if she was Mystique, one, would Magneto have left her there? Two, why would she hide herself from Magneto? Like, why would she not have revealed herself to Magneto anyway?
Mhm.
I don't buy it either. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess Magneto could have left her there as like a mole, but I don't buy it either at this point. I am officially on team not Mystique.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the party, pal.
Thank you.
Um, we see that Prime Sentinels are, we see irregular people twisted by Bastion, like he's capitalizing on the idea that they think they're going to be replaced, and saying, well, you've wanted to, be better than that at that point. And so that's why he needed Mr. Sinister as someone who's been experimenting on mutants and technically people for many years and centuries at that point. So once they're activated, the person behind them is no more. Now in the comics, that's basically mirroring the comics, because they basically are that they don't come back from that. Once they're turned, they're turned.
Yeah, I don't. Clearly not the case here. I don't think, but
Yeah, we'll have to
the
see.
way that all of these were turning, and some of them more so than others, were quite shocking moments. I thought.
Oh yeah,
Like,
they're very very interesting. Like in the comics, Rogue, when she used her powers on one of the Prime Sentinels, all she got was an empty shell. Like she didn't get memories or anything like that. Sinister even makes a mention of Doctor Mengele, who was the Nazi doctor at that point, and he said he was very good until he went all Nazi.
right.
So even it reminds me of one of my favorite DC Marvel kind of crossovers, Captain America and Batman, where Joker finds out that the Red Skull's a Nazi. He said, I'm crazy and I'm a villain, but I'm not a. And it's like, oh, there's a line with these villains.
There's a line, yes, for sure.
So that line in the Rocketeer is like, hey, I may be organized crime, but I'm not. I'm still a red-blooded American.
Of course, yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Oh God, so
It,
good.
yeah, like that line from Sinister is like Mr. Sinister. His name is Sinister, but even he has the line, and I like how the confidence that Sinister shows in this, where he's like, I've got. He may think I'm working for him, but really I'm using him to my own
Hmm.
means. I'm like, one of you's getting played here, and I don't know which one it is yet, but I'm not convinced it's Bastion. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bastion's got one over on him that he could basically snap his fingers and end Sinister if he really wanted to.
It seems like he could, right?
Hmm. And one day, I like our portrayal of Sinister, but I'm a huge fan of Sassy Sinister in the comics. Like, I loved that turn when we became Sassy Sinister. So maybe we'll get that in the series. But they do change things up with, this idea of Val kind of having second thoughts on who she's teaming up with. She's seeing Magneto. She apologizes to Magneto for what happened. And we do see the Holocaust number tattoo on his wrist.
Hmm.
We head back to the mansion, and Trish Tilby shows up to the mansion trying to apologize, to give Beast coffee, and comments how they have a known fugitive at the mansion, Trask Sentinel hybrid, which was, I was like, oh, they do. Oh, you're right. I didn't know they kept the body there.
Yeah, like they just left. Just that's where I don't know. It seemed like an odd. Like it makes sense why they would want it, but it just seemed an odd place. Like after that public battle and public fight, that the authorities would allow that.
Yeah. So, but let's take our next ad break before we kind of head towards the last act of this. So, as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We do not get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So give that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we're back. So we start splitting off in teams. So we get Cable, Gene, and Scott going to Pittsburgh to get to the house that Bastion grew up in. They knock on the door, and Bastion's mother greets them, saying, "Oh, I've been expecting you. My son said we'd be having visitors." And I was like, all right, we're already getting a little creepy there. She talks to them about him. They see a picture that he drew that, again, the castle that Madeline saw in the flashbacks. We do see him as a child struggling in school, hearing these voices, which is also a very interesting homage to the movie Man of Steel. So that's 2 Man of Steel references, which Bo DeMeo had come out and said he is a big fan of Zack Snyder and the movie Man of Steel. So hence why there are these little tips of the hat to it. His subconscious took over him and is what drove things the way they are. We see that Bastion's dad was infected by Nimrod. He said he was a custodian, and he had come back when he had come back from having a lunch or whatever like that. And I'm guessing that we did see confirmed from Bo DeMeo that we did see who mom and dad were in the 1950s in the episodes One Man's Worth.
Yeah, I love that they went back to those episodes and found people to make Bastion's parents, like to say it's going to be these two characters, just drawing those connections and stuff ever more with the original series.
Yeah. So back at Bastion's headquarters, he is meeting with a very interesting villains cabal. Brent, who are this cabal?
Well, for sure we have Doctor Doom and we have Baron Zemo. And then there was a third person who I wasn't clear on. I wondered if it was Madame Hydra. I know some other people thought that might be who it was.
That's a lot of what people are saying.
But regardless, seeing Doctor Doom, I know this all technically is in the same universe as the Iron Man and the Fantastic Four shows from the 90s, but I don't remember Doom ever appearing in the X-Men, even in cameo form, or Spider-Man before. So it was cool which were the bigger of the four shows. The Hulk, I think, was in that same series also. But regardless, so it was cool to see Doctor Doom, Baron Zemo, sure, the more traditional comic book Baron Zemo with the mask and stuff than what we saw in, well, I know he gets the mask in Falcon Winter Soldier, but you know what I mean, for most of his MCU run. Madame Hydra, we've never seen Hydra in any of this, to my knowledge, so that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we see, he mentions that he's already handling President Kelly.
Which, based on last week, seems to be true. The way Kelly was talking to Scott.
Yeah, but we go back to that episode where Master Mold said, we're going to replace President Kelly's brain with a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And so has he already turned him into a Prime Sentinel?
Wouldn't be the first time they tried to mess with Kelly that way.
Yep. We see so then we head back to Bastion's house, and Cable, Scott, and Jean walk into Bastion's room, his childhood room. We see a robot that looks very much like a Sentinel toy. We see a magazine for the Stark Expo, which has Rosie from the Jetsons, which is also interesting, and a book that says X-52, which is a nod to X-Men number 52, adjectiveless X-Men number 52, which was a big story tied to Bastion. Then we see a very, very creepy painting that his mother is quite proud of Bastion for painting, called The Final Dream, which is a clear homage to The Final Solution. We see Master Mold in the middle with demons below that are clearly the X-Men. I kind of made out the following ones where I could guess. We do see Professor X, Cyclops, Angel, Beast, and Nightcrawler underneath Master Mold.
That's who I had written down.
Then all of a sudden, Bastion Mom has a transformation, Brent.
Oh my gosh. This was the creepiest one? I mean, there were others that were creepy, but this one... he did this, man, that's cold. He did it to his own mom.
Well, he is a hybrid robot, so, Yeah, but yeah, she turns into a Prime Sentinel getting ready to attack. Then we cut to Jubilee at the mall, and Roberto, she's in the changing room getting her comic accurate black jumpsuit when the butler changes into a Prime Sentinel. The protesters outside of the mansion are now starting to transform. Not all of them, but enough of them transforming into Prime Sentinels and attacking the mansion. The mansion, again, getting destroyed. And as Deadpool tells Negasonic Teenage Warhead in the Deadpool movies, mansion gets destroyed, it builds character.
Yeah, when Colossus says that's funny. The comic accurate outfit for Jubilee, sure, whatever. But the thing I really liked from the scene was not every random civilian changed.
Yeah.
It's more believable that, because Bastion had been telling Valerie Cooper earlier, they did it to some of them. He left out the parts about, you're going to turn into an evil cyborg. But it's just more believable that he didn't get to every single person. And there's the shot of, that family and the two adults change, but the kids don't. That was an attention to detail that I really liked, because it would have been easy for them just to have done everybody changed at once.
Yeah. So, I would agree with you on that, because it just makes it seem like not everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid from Bastion yet.
Right.
So then we start getting a very awesome fight sequence going on at the mansion where we see Morph turn into Juggernaut. Nightcrawler busts out swords with even his tail wielding one and going all out. Wolverine going all out berserker on everyone. Even, gosh, Beast just can't find good love. Even Trish turns into a Prime Sentinel and attacks Beast and Wolverine, trying to take her out. And even in the air, she's calling Wolverine a Neanderthal. We even get a cool sequence where when Nightcrawler's fighting and Wolverine's holding on, we get to see what him going into the BAMF zone looks like from a person going through it.
Yes, that shot was incredible. Just incredibly well done. Trish Toby was interesting because she said, would they even know that they were like these sleeper agents? And Hank's like, I don't think so. And then boom, she changes.
Yeah, that was like, oh, she's about to change.
I loved it when Wolverine, like they're basically saying to Wolverine, why are you fighting, or you have no reason to fight? And he's like, I'll give you 6 reasons, and he pops the claws. And then Nightcrawler says, no, you have 9, because he has a sword in both hands and his tail. Such an amazing fight scene. So awesome to watch. It just great. Wolverine just saying, he's got to talk to Beast about his choice in women, his type of women.
Yeah, I got to talk about Hank about his choice in women.
And I actually thought there was something else, but it'll come back to me. But regardless, that sequence, Wolverine and Nightcrawler, I think that was my favorite sequence of the episode, like seeing the two of them back-to-back fighting and then really culminating in the shot of Nightcrawler going through, like, because when he teleports, he's technically going through another dimension and then he comes back out on the other side. Like, them showing that to us, like, that was a rewind and watch a couple times moment.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, and people can correct me if I'm wrong at that point, it was almost like he transports, like you said, another dimension, like Limbo or even through hell itself at that point.
I want to say Limbo, but yeah,
okay.
No, like somebody can correct us on it.
Yeah. So we go back to New York City, and Jubilee's crashing out of the window, and who rescues her but Roberto himself, and she's shocked because he can fly. He says, yeah, I've been doing some extra practicing in the Danger Room. I want to surprise you.
Not sure when he's had time, but okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, there we go. So we are back with Cable, Jean, and Scott, who are in the Blackbird, flying away, trying to get away from all these Prime Sentinels after them. At that point, they're not being too successful, and Scott gets frustrated. This is not happening again. At that point, and apparently has to scuttle the 3rd Blackbird in so many months. As they lost the first one in the final episode of the animated series. Then they lost the next one in X-Men, the first episode of this season. So now we've lost the 3rd one, and Jean makes comments like, Beast is not going to be happy with you.
Yeah, she said 3rd one in as many months, so it's like 3 in 3 months. So really, that one at the end of the first season show would have been a 4th one, because Madeline was pregnant for 9 months, presumably. So had to be a different one. I don't think we've seen them all.
Oh, okay.
I just
as I said, like we saw it go down in the last episode of the season.
That was more than 3 months ago, though.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough. Or it could just be unfortunate, poor writing. That one.
I mean, conceivable.
Yeah. So they bust. This is where we like. Okay, this is what I made a comment. Is like, okay, this is where we start going Fast and Furious. Is that they bust out with a Porsche. Not just Porsche landing and can handle that. Now, I'm not making comments that Porsches are bad cars necessarily, but a sports car like that is not going to handle falling out of an airplane at the height it was and does look halfway decent.
An X-Men Porsche will. An X-Men
of course, yeah.
I love that scene so much. I was cracking up. It's like, yes, hashtag family again. X-Men meets Fast and Furious.
Yep.
Fast X for sure. What a great scene, right? It's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's fun. But there's a moment where Cyclops says something like, "Let's show them why you don't mess with the Summers." And
let's show these toasters why you don't screw with the Summers. Yes.
He's using his optic blast to clear a hole in front of the mountain in front of them, while Cable's covering them from behind, and Jean's just trying to basically keep the whole thing together. At the end, when they come out, they have her falling out of it. The car explodes. There's a little subtle moment of bonding between Cable and Cyclops.
There is.
Where they fist bump. Mm-hmm. And I was like, did I just see what I thought I did? Again, rewound it, and it was like, yeah, no, they absolutely fist bumped there. Good for Scott. I'm sure he really appreciated that.
Now, before the car exploded, did you catch the license plate name?
Remind me.
SL1M. Slim.
Okay. Slim. Oh my
which
gosh.
is Scott's nickname,
Wow. Yeah.
which was
From
originally Scott.
Wolverine.
No, actually, you go back to the very first issue of X-Men at that
Oh,
point. That
really?
was his original first name, Slim Summers. It was it was changed to blink and you miss it. They start calling him Scott without that, but you go back,
Okay.
it was
Okay.
originally Slim Summers.
I mean,
So, but you
I
gotta
I love
love
it.
they did not no kind of the hero landing at that point. They didn't necessarily have they had their own version of the hero landing, but they're getting kind of religious on this one. We got the Father with Scott, we've got the Son and Cable, and the Holy Spirit being Gene over them. I mean, look at
Hmm.
that. We're getting religion going on here. Nice little Trinity shot of the family.
Yeah. Such a great moment. So much
Yep.
fun. Still, the highlight for me is Wolverine and Nightcrawler, but
Oh, absolutely.
like getting that and then seeing this, and my love of Fast and Furious is absurd as it is. I mean, that's part of what I love about it is the absurdity, and this absolutely fits right into that.
Mm-hmm. So Roberto and Jubilee crash into the party that the mom's throwing, revealing to everyone that he's a mutant. And then the Prime Sentinels come in and said, "Oh, we're just here to protect them." At that point, and his mom's just like, "Just go with them. They won't do anything if we comply."
Horrible, horrible. Cyclops is a way better parent than this lady is.
That's true, but who's the worst parent, this mom or the mom from Shazam? I still say the mom from Shazam.
Well, no, the mom from Shazam isn't winning any awards anytime either. So I mean, she's also a pretty awful person.
Yes. So they get Jubilee and Roberto get collared and taken away. We then head back to Mr. Sinister, who tells Bastion that Val has let Magneto out, and we see as Magneto escapes, we see Prime Sentinels surrounding all our heroes, and that's when he says, "Enough." He uses his powers to the nth degree, turns it up to 11, and uses his powers to control the magnetic poles of the Earth, creating a gigantic EMP and taking out all electronics, knocking out all the Prime Sentinels permanently. And we get this idea, hashtag Magneto was right.
Magneto was
Cyclops is
right.
still wrong, but
Magneto was right.
Magneto was right. I will totally get behind that. During this, we get a quick show of a web slinger.
We do. There's a few cameos, Silver Samurai, Omega Red, but the
Mhm.
most important one is, of course, Spider Man. So we get to see our 90s Spider Man again, even if for a second.
Yeah, we do get it, and there have been a source that's kind of I asked at the idea that what they're connected to, and they've been pretty right with it, and I trust them when they say this that yes, there have been discussions, ongoing discussions about Spider-Man the animated series, bringing that back. However, those are pretty much not moving forward anytime soon because of Friendly Neighborhood. And the idea, not saying that general audience can't handle two Spider-Man shows, but both of these Spider-Man shows would be very close in the sense of why are we having two things that might be basically doing the same thing. So if Friendly Neighborhood does not take off, or eventually if it does end, the resumption of Spider-Man the animated series could come into play as long as the fanfare for X-Men 97. So it looks like right now they are focusing, from what he is telling me, they are focusing on building out this world through 97 and then seeing what happens if they want to spin off anything. But Spider-Man is not on the table right now.
It makes sense. It makes total sense. You're not gonna
Outside
do
of
both at
outside of
once.
maybe an episode we cannot forget the episode where Spider-Man did have that episode appearance. That was a prominent figure in that episode with the X-Men.
Sure, sure.
So there's always a chance. I know Mr. Hines was very excited about that, and we have to acknowledge he got that one right in the sense of his factor of fiction he proposed. So he was very happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So we do head back to the mansion with Wolverine saying that Magneto has officially started a war. Suddenly a ship crashes in the mansion. Why not destroy the mansion any further? And out comes Professor X out of the Shi'ar kind of bug-looking gear that Lalandra came out of at that point, saying he hopes he's not too late, and he utters the very famous phrase, "To me, my X-Men." I'm kind of with the Geekverse guys. Where the heck has Storm been? She
Yeah,
got all shocked about the TV, and where is she?
I'm a little surprised she's not there yet as well. What one could assume she's been fighting some of the Prime Sentinels. I wouldn't mind it if we got a glimpse of that just to
Yeah.
kind of explain. But it's funny because Professor X is all like, "I hope I'm not too late," as he's landing in the rubble of the mansion for the who knows how many time, and the world is basically on fire after what Magneto did. But he hopes he's not too late.
Yeah, we do hope that. So, uh, Bo DeMeo has given this week's homework. This week's homework is a single issue of the Uncanny X-Men, issue number 304, part of the Fatal Attractions epic. And the tagline was Fatal Attractions, an offer of salvation, a betrayal most bitter. Now, I know this comic very well. Fatal Attractions is one of my favorite X-Men story arcs of all time. It is definitely top 10, if not top 5. I think it is, if I were to put it, it's definitely in top 5.
Has to be
I,
one of the most
I,
famous ones.
I
Has to
know
be.
what happens in this show, and I know what happens who betrays. The character that betrays is not prominently featured in this show. However, that is why Bo DeMeo said for these final episodes, he said one of the episodes to look at is Sanctuary Parts 1 and 2. We're heading back to Asteroid Embren is my theory. And
I think so too, because I mean they show it in the opening credits. I'm like, well,
yeah,
this is there for a reason.
yeah. And so we had talked about this of sides being drawn in this one, and I think this is where we start seeing it, and I think someone is going to turn and join Magneto's side, and it's going to be so if you want to do your homework, I suggest reading all of Fatal Attractions. It is an outstanding arc. I even put it out there as my factor fiction is that Magneto's going even more villain, and we're going to get this homage. So now that Bo DeMeo's putting out this particular issue, yeah, we're going to get a little bit of Fatal Attractions going on.
I think so too. Yeah.
So yeah, so check that out. But yeah, outstanding episode to begin our march to the season, the full season finale.
And 2 more episodes to go. Which
2 more episodes to go.
Is sad, but I am really excited for them.
Yeah, it's we're just gonna we're. But the good thing is we know we're getting a second season.
It's already confirmed, already in production, already on doing the voiceover work for it. Yes.
Yeah. So all right, well. We are gonna take our let's see. No, I think we're good. We just took our ad break earlier, so we're good at this point. So, all right, we do not have any major news this week, so we're just gonna head into our listener feedback section at that point. So, as always, Brent, you put out the Spidey signal. What do we have this week?
Yeah, I got a few questions. First up from Amari, since X-Men 97 has been a success, would you want to see other X-Men shows like X-Men Evolution or Wolverine and the X-Men potentially revived?
I would go. I would say potentially, but again, X-Men 97 has to play itself out. As I said, we're not getting two Spider-Man animated shows that's running at the same time. Outside of like, you're not you could get Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and Spidey and His Amazing Friends, and then Friendly Neighborhood, because those are two different kinds of audiences you're going after.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm open to it. I was never as into either show. Nothing against them. It's just when they came out, I just didn't catch most of them. But once they're done with X-Men 97, I would be interested in one of those as well.
Yeah, I would say out of the X-Men Evolution or Wolverine and the X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men, I enjoyed a lot more. You had, the team had drifted apart and then they had reunited. Wolverine becomes the leader of the team, with the premise relying on the disappearance of Jean Grey and Charles Xavier. We get the obscure villains like Master Mold and Stepford Cuckoo's in it. It was definitely, I thought, I liked X-Men Evolution, but Wolverine and the X-Men definitely was, I think, just a tier above it.
And then from Travis Snell, if Spider-Man Tasks, the animated series, did come back, what are some storylines you'd want them to explore that they didn't do in the original series, or what would you want them to expand on?
Why did you start with that one?
Well, number one, let's finish where the cliffhanger left off and have Spider-Man go find Mary Jane. That's number one. So either explore it, expand it, whatever you want to call it. That's got to be the first one.
Yeah, I would say I want more of an expansion of the Age of Apocalypse. We got that with one man's worth, but I want we
In
always
Spider-Man?
we don't what's that?
In Spider-Man?
No, not in Spider-Man, but in X-Men 97.
Oh, he's talking about Spider-Man.
Oh, Spider-Man at that point. See, I haven't done a big rewatch of Spider-Man to really say which ones I want. Like
Well,
Spy-
let's
mo-
assume they did the same thing X-Men has done, and they treat it as though our primary audience is the adults who watched it when
Yeah.
they were kids. Craven's Last Hunt, I think, would be a great one to do.
I'd think Maximum Carnage.
I would never turn down Maximum Carnage. It'd be utterly ridiculous, and I
Yeah.
love that series and all its '90s deliciousness. Yes, give me Maximum Carnage as well. Really, anything they wanted to do with the symbiotes is fine. Of course, if we're talking '90s story arcs, we got to mention the Clone Saga. But which hey, Ben Riley did appear in an episode, but stuff like Craven's Last Hunt, things along those lines. More with the Green Goblins, I would never turn down. More with some of the other gangsters who were maybe appeared in the show, but not as much. Like Tombstone was in it, but not as much as like Kingpin or Hammerhead or whatever. Like so, like some of those kind of things. Introduce some of the newer characters, like the superior foes of Spider-Man. Like introduce some characters like that who weren't as prominent back then. I'd be interested in.
Hey, maybe we could get some superior Spider-Man. Could we get the Dr. Ock kind of taking over, right?
I love Superior Spider-Man,
Yep.
so I'm into that. His next question is no spoilers, but in X-Men '97, do we get that Wolverine and Magneto moment, and if so, when?
If
you don't know what moment it is, I guess go read Fatal Attractions.
Yeah, go read Fatal Attractions. It's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorites. Very much.
Just think about Magneto and his powers, and think about Wolverine and his enhancements, and you can maybe figure it out.
And begins a retcon that you are either on two sides of the aisle, that you really like it or you can't stand it. But it's stuck.
Definitely stuck. So, do we get that moment? What do you think?
I don't know. And the one part of me says, yes, we can do it. I don't know. Wolverine has not factored a lot into this season. Like, he's had some great moments, great fight sequence, but we've got a lot of, each one of these episodes has kind of focused on a particular kind of member of the team. We haven't had a Wolverine focused episode. That could come next week. I would say I don't think I'm there yet for this happening into the season. I don't know. Maybe next season or maybe not at all. I don't know.
Before the show came out, I would have said no.
Yeah.
I don't see them doing it. But seeing what they've done with some other stuff, I'm going to go ahead and fall on the side of yes, we at a minimum see it alluded to heavily.
Yeah, I could see illusion. I just don't know if we're going to go to the full, like, what he ends up doing,
Yeah, man. I'll say yes, I think they will, but I'm not super strong about it.
Yeah, I'll be like 51%. We get it. Like, when do we get it? I mean, they could do it next episode.
When do we get it? Cliffhanger at the end of season 1.
Yeah, but if my only strike against that right now is just if the character who I think is going to quote unquote betray them, because if he's Bo DeMeo giving us that homework, there is a key member of that team during that particular issue that betrays them and joins Magneto's side for a time. I don't. If that were to happen in front of them, I don't see them staying on that side. Like that would shake them and just not stay with Magneto, you know?
Sure.
So, but yeah, I'm 51%, maybe happening next episode, but it I don't know. I'm with you in the sense of like they could do it in very plausible. They could do it. It's just like I don't know if they want to take away one of the key members of this team that everyone flocks to watch, you know?
I mean, it doesn't have to take them away.
No, it doesn't. But
we'll see.
We'll see. So, any more questions?
Nope, that'll do it.
All right. Well, we will head to thank you all for those questions. We love hearing that. So, fact or fictions from last week, we had 4 of them. Number 1, Paradox will be a secret villain in Deadpool and Wolverine. 89% said fact, 11% said fiction. Number 2, in Deadpool and Wolverine, Cassandra Nova will be trying to find a way to capture Goliath. We have a 50-50 split. They're not sure on that one. Number 3, the end credits of Deadpool and Wolverine will have Wolverine and Deadpool recruiting a hero from another universe that will be played by a big movie star. 83% said fact, 17% said fiction. And then this one coming from David. Now that we have seen sleeveless Logan, we will see a full suit Logan, mask and cowl in the new trailer before the release. 78% said fact, 22% said fiction.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yep. All right. What you got for us this week, Brent?
All right. After the success, and we kind of alluded to this earlier, after the success of X-Men 97, another show from this same universe will be brought back. Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Hulk, Iron Man.
I think there's a strong possibility.
I feel like there's a good chance any of those are coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fact as well.
Yep.
All right. Spider-Man will appear in an episode of X-Men 97 Season 2 with a speaking part.
I'll say fact because a lot of people really honed that in. They like that. They like that episode a lot, and brought in this whole idea: is Spider-Man a mutant?
Yeah, when the X-Men were in they were in 2 episodes of Spider-Man the animated series, and the second part of that it was mostly Wolverine and Beast, but it was really fun to see that interaction. I'm a fact as well on this. I think it'll happen. Now I got to ask, non-graded, do you think it'll be the original actor?
They've done a very good job on this. Even having like the original actors, even though they can't come back and play their own part, the original voice actor who plays Gambit now does the voice of Gambit. I mean, voice of Cable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that happening. They've done a very good job with legacy casting on this.
All right, so now let's talk season 1. Bishop will appear again before the end of season 1.
Yeah, I'll say yes. I'll say fact.
I'm going to say fact as well, just because I am really convinced time travel is going to come into play.
Yeah, we haven't had. I mean, it's been trying to come into play, but like in a prominent role. I get what you're saying. So
yeah.
So, but yeah, all right. We'll put those out on Sunday afternoon to let your voices be heard on that. All right, Brent. We are heading to Comic Book Club. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe #2. So we've already seen him take down the Fantastic Four, a few others at that point. Where are we heading with this one? Does it look like an opening? Hey, Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man, he's going to surely take down Deadpool. I mean, Deadpool can't beat Spider-Man, right? Or maybe he can. But I really did enjoy that Spider-Man got the drop on him quite literally by slamming Deadpool down into the police car from up above, which, presumably would have broken his neck and stuff. More vicious than Spider-Man normally would be, but he knows exactly who he's dealing with here.
Yep, he does, and Spider Sense wasn't too quick to let him dodge it.
It really should have gone off faster
to
warn him.
Yep, but then you wouldn't have this, so yeah, he shoots him in the head, blows his brains out, and wanders off, and now we get the meeting of who's left of the Avengers team.
Which isn't much, no.
Nope, isn't much, but as they're meeting, trying to decide what to do, all of a sudden, a bunch of explosives teleport in, and boom, there goes everyone. And I find it's interesting, we see the adamantium skeleton of a Wolverine left behind, so he didn't even survive this. We do get one survivor.
Yeah, I mean, well, one, and then he goes out in just horrific way, because, Thor survives.
Yep, Thor survives.
And Deadpool messing with pin particles, that's not good, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's real bad. But then he uses it to basically make Thor's hammer giant.
Yep.
And it just crushes Thor's body.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
So then he heads off and then tries to face down the Hulk, and Hulk basically kind of takes them all apart.
Yeah, rips them apart pretty gruesomely, and what I thought was going to happen did happen is Deadpool, he gets back together, and he chases him down, and he takes him out as Banner.
Yeah, takes him out very easily. And then at the end, we get who's left of Spider-Man's family. Um, Hank, Henry McCoy say, hey, Trish will be making another appearance. So in this one,
Yep.
they're together. Um, Miss Masters, friend of Ben Grimm, and Miss Gardner was close to the X-Men Wolverine, and they've got all this kind of money,
Money and
jewels,
treasure.
treasures at that point, which is kind of interesting. And they're all saying, we need you to take down, we want to hire you to take down Deadpool. And who is the one they're trying to hire?
The Taskmaster.
The Taskmaster. So yeah, so we're gonna see what it is, because as we know, Taskmaster's ability is can mimic any kind of movement, any kind of abilities that he just needs to see once. And so the next issue, number 3, the X-Men. So a lot of fun so far. I'm having fun with this.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yep. So all right, well, volume 213 in the books. We as always got post credits at that point. So Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, Brentak Prime on the socials. I have not been super active lately. Hopefully that'll pick up soon once work slows back down a little bit.
Yep. Well, this too shall pass, right?
Eventually, a few weeks.
So yeah, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for all your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. We want to, follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. Me personally at Chris Balga. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. We just dropped a new episode this week. Frank has returned. We are looking at Absolute Carnage from the Donny Cates run at that point. So make sure to check that out. And you can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. DMs are open across all our socials. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, GUA Network feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, whichever platform you listen to your podcast on. We greatly appreciate it. We want to thank everyone joining us live in the chat, everyone listening to us. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Dan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post-credits discussion tonight, looking at Chris Hemsworth spoke to Vanity Fair, kind of a big kind of expose of checking in on him, and he made some comments about his recent outing on Thor, and particularly Thor Love and Thunder. So this is coming from Vanity Fair's May 2024 issue, where Marvel fans deserve another Thor movie after the quote-unquote whiff that was Thor Love and Thunder. He said he already admitted to GQ last year that his fourth standalone Thor film was too silly for its own good, but the misstep appears to continue to haunt him. He says, I got caught up in the improv and the wackiness, and I became a parody of myself. He said, I didn't stick the landing. Now, while Hemsworth has always been grateful for his career-defining role of Thor, he admitted that at the publication that he grew frustrated with the character while playing him in 4 standalone Marvel films and additional Avengers movies. He said, I quote, sometimes I felt like a security guard for the team. I would read everyone else's lines and go, oh, they got to do way cooler stuff. They're having more fun. What's my character doing? It was always about, you've got a wig, you've got the muscles, you've got the costume. Where's the lightning? Yeah, I'm a part of the big thing, but I'm probably pretty replaceable. For what it's worth, Robert Downey Jr. refuses to listen to those claims, saying that, first off, Thor as a character was super tricky to adapt. Lots of implied limitations, but he and Kenneth Branagh figured out how to transcend, make him somehow relatable but godlike. Hemsworth is, in my opinion, the most complex psyche of all the Avengers. He's got wit, gravitas, but also such restraint, fire, and gentleness. I agree with Robert Downey Jr.'s take, because I think where we see a more complex Thor is basically Infinity War. That is one of where we see a lot of Thor really come out. And then I know people had problems with quote unquote dad bro Thor, and looking at how much he had gained weight after Endgame. But I was like, man, suffering through PTSD. This is how he's coping. He let in his entire friends and his people down, and he doesn't know what to do with himself. Like, that's a lot there. But I also find it interesting that he's had second thoughts. Like he was about to quit being Thor after Dark World and wanted a switch in tone. And so when we got to Ragnarok, he really had a good time, but too much of a good thing, it sounds like. And he kind of doubled down on it. And upon reflection, saying, well, maybe we went too far.
Yeah, and I looked up how it did, and you could argue it's if it what he means by failure. I mean, 760 at the box office on a 250 budget, not great with such a high budget, but not certainly not the worst thing that's ever happened. Creatively though, clearly it's sticking. It's not working for him as much. I personally have it ranked pretty low on my list of Marvel movies. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I had a lot of fun. I thought it was funny. But were there times that it went a little too wacky? Sure, there were. And I have a lot of respect that Hemsworth is owning his part in that, right? I wouldn't expect him to throw anyone else under the bus, but you got to also just say, well, who was steering the ship for this movie? Taika Waititi. And if you don't like his brand of humor, it's not going to work for you. Maybe there was just a bit too much and he needed to rein it back in a little bit. But I'm still hoping they do another Thor movie regardless. I don't need it as an apology for Thor Love and Thunder. I just want to see what they do for another Thor movie.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be an apology. I just think they're gonna I think he wants to do one. It's very evident he wants to kind of go out. If it's gonna be his last solo outing, he wants to maybe go back to, I don't, not necessarily fully in the sense of whipping back to Thor 1, but I think moving much more in that direction, less silliness at that point. Because again, there are some people who really like the Thor character and did not like the changeover in the character. So I think we can go back to more of the Kenneth Branagh kind of version of it. And there are some still great storylines that they could do with it. I want to see my Beta Ray Bill come in, you know?
Yeah, I would enjoy seeing that. I hope at some point we see that, but I feel like a Thor movie is the best. I do want to see Thor versus Hercules too, but that doesn't, even though it's Brett Goldstein, who is absolutely hysterical, it doesn't have to be just a massive joke fest.
Yeah, it's I think it's time to kind of bring that back at that point. They had a time, they doubled down a little too much. Taika got too Taika on that. And but yeah, we'll see. Again, I appreciate him taking ownership for this. And I it's one of those things that the character means a lot to him. And the fact that he's saying this, saying, I want to get one more chance to kind of give the fans back. And so I can feel like if it's going to be my last solo, I want to do right by it. So
Sure.
I respect
Absolutely.
that. But all right, we will see you all next week for Tolerance's Extinction Part 2. See y'all later. Have a good weekend.